Hi, everyone. Thank you for checking out this week's episode. I wanted to jump on and offer a small reminder of the ways that you can connect with us. The first way is our socials. So we are Men I've Tolerated Pod on Instagram and Natalie K124 on TikTok, my personal Instagram. And you can find us on YouTube and Pinterest under To All the Men I've Tolerated Before. The second way is by becoming a Patreon member. We are well on our way to our 25 member Patreon, where we are going to unlock bonus perks to being a patron member. Shout out to all of our existing patrons. As an independently ran and funded podcast, your support means everything. Another way that you can connect with us is making sure to subscribe and leave comments wherever you can so we can start reading reviews on each podcast episode. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure to check out the merch store, and we will see you next week. Hey, tolerators, this is To All the Men I've Tolerated Before with Natalie Katona, your weekly look at everyday misogyny. I am barely holding my shit together because do you know who's back today? It's Annie.
Spoiler alert, she's back almost every day.
Spoiler alert, should she leave, I am taking to the woods and never coming back. And she's here because there was drama and there was rumblings in our reality TV universe, a la Vanderpump Rules, one of our favorite shows. So why would I not have Annie talk to me about the misogyny that is Tom Sandoval that then caused Scandavol?
I feel like this is a really full circle moment because if I'm not mistaken, I was on the podcast with you like right when the first whisperings of Scandavol were breaking. We were like, what is this? What is happening? How dramatic. And then now, like, as the final reunions have finished airing and it's all just wrapping up, put a little button on it and see how far we've gone in this time.
For those of you who don't spend copious amounts of time watching other people scream at one another and then call it television, Vanderpump Rules is the beautiful spinoff of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, where it followed the restaurant employees, in quotation marks, of Lisa Vanderpump and her restaurant Sir. And for 11 years, it feels like, because COVID is a monster and I just lump it into 1 year instead of 3, I have known these people who I believe are still in their early 20s. And then one day I wake up and I'm like, no, you're 40. You're 40. And they're...
The fact that Tom has been lying about his age this entire time is hilarious. From what I understand, he's actually 42 and has been saying 39. It's just buddy.
But Tom Sandoval of Vanderpump Rules fame.
Vanderfuck?
Yeah, Vanderfuck. He is a Vanderfuck. So Tom Sandoval cheated on his longtime life partner, Ariana Madix. And even if you've never watched Vanderpump Rules before, your life was changed.
It's true. Tectonic plates shifted. It was monumental.
There were people who are like, I can't talk to my friends anymore because I do not know who Kristen Doty is.
I mean, I will say, if nothing else good came of this, and I think several good things have actually come from this trash bag of a situation, but just the fact that Kristen Doty has been brought back into everyday conversations, it's all worth it because she is truly my queen.
I love it because my stepmom, when I'm like, and Kristen is coming back, she's like, ugh, who wants to watch Kristen? And I'm like, me.
Everyone. Also, I have never related harder to a story arc than a character being such a nightmarish, drunk, train wreck garbage person that she had to disappear and then return as a physically heavier witch. Hell yeah. She came back and was like, I no longer have an eating disorder and I do have a bag full of crystals. And that is, I could not think of a better future for her. That's beautiful.
If anything, Kristen Doute's story arc is what this podcast is all about. And it's when you remove yourself from toxic men, you become a witch and then learn to thrive. That's what Taylor Swift did with folklore.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
She's drawn back to the toxic men like a magnet every time. So we'll see what Nazi she's dating next week. But for right now, she's doing good.
She's doing okay. First off, I want to start this conversation with saying that I always knew that Tom Schwartz sucked and everyone else thought he was a puppy.
Okay, I'm sorry. Not everyone. Not everyone. Because I will say I was a Sandoval apologist. I don't like that about myself, but it's true. I was like, oh, I like that he's not embarrassed by how horrible he is. Like, it's cute that he wears sparkle pants to, like, funerals. Like, that's great for him. But I have never been a Schwartz apologist because that man is, I know that gatekeeping, and not gatekeeping, that gaslighting has become like a very overused phrase, but look it up in the dictionary and there's just a picture of Schwartz. He is the most nightmarish boyfriend in the like, nice guys finish last kind of way. It truly makes me sick to my stomach. Katie deserves, I don't know, like a Nobel Peace Prize for surviving that marriage.
And he honestly, like, perfected that form of gaslighting that Tom Sandoval was trying to do all along, except for Tom Sandoval loves to yell at women.
Mm-hmm. He does. But I think Schwartz kind of does too. I think the men of Vanderpump Rules love screaming in the face of a woman. And part of the thing that people don't understand about why Scandavol got so big is that it feels like finally they crossed a line so massive and got caught so red-handed that the women got to just like rage out, and we finally get to see, after seasons of watching these absolute trash men act like absolute trash men, we get to see the women be like, well, guess what, I'm gonna make $1 million selling t-shirts about what a piece of shit you are. It's the only good version of capitalism.
It truly is. But I keep saying, I was like, my favorite part of Scandavol is that Tom Sandoval probably really thought that he was going to get a lot of attention, and instead everyone else is making more money than him.
Yeah. Well, what's wild is that it's easy to look at this and be like, oh my god, Tom and Raquel, how did you possibly think that this was going to go well for you? But the reason he could possibly think that is because it did go well for him one time. Like, he actually pulled off this exact ruse before. He was with Kristen, he was hooking up with Ariana, he slid into her DMs or did whatever he did while she was vulnerable because, like, her dad had just died. He goes after vulnerable women while he's already in a relationship and then denies that there's overlap and then just transitions into another long-term relationship that he will eventually cheat on. He has done it, and it has worked on TV. He's gotten away. Miami Girl happened, and he still had the good guy reputation on TV. So I do understand how he thought that he could just make Ariana the new Kristen and make Raquel the new Ariana. But, like, you're 42, sir. Sir.
You're
42 years old.
Sir, are you okay?
Not that it's cool at any age, but, like, no.
As you were explaining that, I was like, I wonder what the key difference is. And the key difference is that Kristen was going through her manic era. So she was already the girl who was throwing drinks and getting slapped by Stassi and screaming at everybody. And so when Tom Sandoval was like, I just want to hook up with that, like, cool, quiet chick in the bar, people are like, yeah, that's probably a safer choice than Kristen. Kristen's probably going to kill you in the middle of the night.
When he was like, our relationship was bad, I want to be in this one, we were all like, yeah, okay, you shouldn't have overlapped it, but I can see why you didn't want that relationship. And then he tried to do it with Ariana, but Ariana was a good girlfriend. The thing they keep pointing to of like, well, it's kind of on her for believing us when we lied to her, is more proof that she was a good girlfriend. Despite everything, she was like, you're telling me nothing's happening? You're my partner? I'm believing you and I'm defending you. So she wasn't going to give him the kind of ammunition that Kristen would. He kind of screwed himself over by transitioning onto an actually good, kind person. No offense to my girl Kristen. Love her to death. But, like, I think even she would admit at this point, she was unwell at that time.
She was unwell.
She would not be a fun girlfriend to have.
Also, I think, so Scandavol is years in the making because Tom's never been a good boyfriend to Ariana.
No, do you remember when, I don't remember what traumatic thing had happened to her, but she was really upset and was crying, And he was like, I just want you to know I'll always be there for you. And she was like, I really appreciate that. And he went, but Jax rented monster trucks and said we could drive them. I'm going to leave now.
Oh, I know exactly what was going on. It was Ariana's birthday. And she has birthday trauma like I do, not because my dad died, but because of Christmas. So she has birthday trauma because every year on her birthday, her dad would be like, you are the most beautiful gift. And every year with you is a present. And he would say these really nice things. And now he's dead.
And he was like, and that is sad, but Jax rented monster trucks. So why?
And they were like big Tonka trucks in Vegas. He goes, I want to go to Vegas. No, you're not invited.
Yes, I will cheat on you again while I'm there. But I'm sorry that dad is dead.
And I'm going to make Schwartz watch me scoop up dirt with a Tonka truck that's life size.
Ariana at one point in one of the various times that they had her talk about all this made such a good point, which is that at the time that she fell in love with Tom, he was absolutely nothing. He was on Vanderpump Rules, but it was very early days. The show did not have much of a following. He was not making very much money. He was still working at that restaurant. He shaved his forehead and was embarrassing in every possible way and drove like a normal ass car. And she was like, I like this nerd. I'm into it. I'm signing up for this. Raquel was signing up for whatever weird complex illusion he's been putting his money towards. The band that he's entirely financing, the fancy clothes, all the bullshit. She was signing on for like Roundy's brand David Bowie. It's a different situation.
It's a different situation. And I think that Tom does a really with the vulnerable women in the cast, the women who aren't going to like call him on his bullshit because they've known him too long. So if you take out Stassi, Kristen, Lala, and Katie, these people who are like, no, we know your patterns and we've got your number. And you look at the Billies, the Arianas, the Raquels, the Charlies, all of it, he's really good at making you believe that he's a really great friend to have around.
He reminds me of when I was in the dance world. I used to teach dance, and I went to like a training seminar that was like all different dance teachers at different levels, and it was like very intimidating. And a friend of mine's boyfriend, who was also they both worked in the same company, came and sat next to me, and it was like the first one I've ever been to, and I was really nervous. And he like sat by me and was really nice and was being like, you know, I was insecure about these things when I first started, and just like super supportive. And I remember being like, that's so nice that he's not like being like creepy and lecherous about it. And then as the years went by, I was like, oh, he's sitting next to every girl at her first one of these and being comforting and being supportive. And like, that's actually not a green flag. Not that men can't be nice and supportive, but he very clearly was cozying up to whoever was new and young and insecure and female. And a few years later, it came out that he was having affairs with any of the girls who were responsive to that. And I just feel like that's a very specific brand of man who takes on the persona, like Sheena talking about how when she first started, no one wanted to do red carpet pictures with her, that he would be like, you're part of the group, and would bring her in. They're doing nice things. They're being inclusive. They're being supportive. But it is a very thinly veiled agenda behind all of it.
I have started to call them the nice guys with bad intentions because they're nice, but they're only nice because eventually you will want to take your clothes off for them or stick up for them and for your girlfriend. When your girlfriend's like, did he have sex with Miami girls? Sheena's like, I just really couldn't see it. Now, could you? Sheena, Ariana, and James, I'm like, all three of you are this trifecta of hurt people that should just be upset.
I think Sheena is very upset. I think that she's processing that grief pretty thoroughly. But I think that one of my Vanderpump theories is that Sheena has always been and will always be the fundamental heart of the show. She is the linchpin, whether people like it or not. She's the reason they got the show, because she was banging Hetty Cibrian, and she will always be the through line. I can't believe they tried to like bring her down to basically like friend of, because she is the root of it. And I think it really showed in the Scandavol of it all, because she is so authentically, genuinely caring about these people. Like, she was going to Tom's embarrassing shows. She was going to Raquel's beauty pageants. She is genuinely so close with Ariana. She's like a legitimate friend. And to her, obviously this is a show. Obviously there's all of that. But like, you can tell she's not faking how hurt she is by all of this. She really cared about these people, and it really stings. Versus like, I love Lala. Lala has had Tom's number from the jump. She's known from the jump, and she's been like, I don't like any of that. And who she's close with and not close with can vary a lot based on what's going on with the show and all of that. She seems a lot more emotionally detached. Again, love her, want to date her, but Sheena just feels like it's like exposed nerve at all times, and I really appreciate that from her.
No, because when Sandoval tried to go on a fake apology tour, they closed the season out with him trying to explain it to Sheena, and Sheena being like, no, it's over. You don't get to be in my life anymore. And I'm like, yeah, Sheena, tell him. And then we'll all cry together.
The part of that scene that I was the most proud of her for, because I don't know that I would have been articulate enough in the moment, especially with that much emotion behind it, to have that correct answer. But when he tried to disgustingly throw around the idea that he couldn't break up with Ariana because her mental health and that she would kill herself, the fact that Sheena so immediately was like, well, guess what? You know how to access me and her mom and her siblings, and we're clearly capable of picking up the mess that you make. So if you really were afraid of that, you would have done the right thing and had that conversation, and you would have had her support group ready to come take over. So your excuse is bullshit. Fuck yourself.
The weaponization of Ariana's mental health, I think, has also been a very present storyline for all of it. Because whenever Ariana like couldn't hang or whatever, they'd be like, she's our mopey friend. And that's why our mopey friend can't come out with us. No Tonka trunks for you. And she'd just be in the corner being like, I have clinical depression.
Also, she was like viciously bullied by half the cast when she came in. She has suffered significant loss at regular intervals throughout the show. And she's spent a decade with Tom Sandoval. So, like, yeah, I'd be sad too. I'd be having a hard time too. Can you imagine the kind of fucked up things he was probably saying to her behind closed doors because of how manipulative and narcissistic he is? Yeah.
We saw a glimmer of it during the reunion when Andy asked Tom, were you having sex with anyone else besides Raquel? And he's like, And then Ariana's like, I'll tell you who he was having sex with. Me. And he went, yeah, she kept her t-shirt on. It was real great. Then just like pulling out her body dysmorphia issues, which she's also been very open about, you moron.
Yeah. Did you hear that recently he basically just doubled down on that quote? And was like, someone asked him about, I think TMZ or something. And he basically was like, well, no, it's not that I was shaming her for her body. It's not about her body. It's about like how unenthusiastic she was. It would be like if she wanted to have sex with me and I just like unzipped my pants and was like, okay, go for it. I'm sorry, sir. You're complaining that the woman who you've been actively cheating on isn't excited enough about jumping on your dick? Gee, I wonder why. Like, no, she didn't know at that point, but she has repeatedly said on camera that you're never around, that she never sees you, that there's no affection. So the fact that she's having sex with you at all at this point is like, slow clap, babe.
She had a really great quote. It was in Glamour or Vogue, or one of the many things she gets to do now because she is our current queen. And it was like, they just want to treat us like sex toys that they can put batteries into. Like, I'm not, and I feel like that's a real great way of just like Tom's misogyny making him believe that, like, you know how Chris Pratt got hot and then he's like, he got hot and then overnight he was like, I'm a hot boy, I deserve a hot life. Well, Tom paid a bunch of dudes to be in a rock band with him and then went, I'm a rock star, I get to have a rock star life, while he's covering 80s like one-offs.
The thing that I keep coming back to with all of this Scandavol at this point, because we've all like analyzed it half to death, is Tom is fascinating in how awful he is, but he's also really quite simple. It's just about him. Everything just boils down to his ego. He doesn't love Raquel. He loves that a young beauty queen was paying attention to him and touching his dick. Congrats. He's just a classic narcissist. But if I may pivot the conversation, what I am interested in is what the fuck Raquel's deal is.
So I have it's point D on my outline, and it literally just says Raquel and all that is her darkness, because that's the term we've been using with Raquel. Like, oh, this is too dark. I'm almost uncomfortable, but I will tune in forever.
Go ahead. If you have an outline, I can stick to the outline. I'll
No,
try my best.
I just bounce along, but I wanted to let you know that I used our terminology for Raquel. It's dark.
It's the trouble with her is that she does appear to be very stupid. Yet a lot of the things that she does seem very conniving and manipulative in a way that you would think a stupid person wouldn't think of. Like, I keep going back to the final 5 minutes of the last episode where it's her coming back and being like, now I want to tell some truth, but still not all the truth. And I keep being like, what was she thinking? Like, did she tell Tom she was going to do that? Did she tell him afterwards? Was he finding out with the rest of the cast? Did she think that this would get her back on the show? And then I keep coming back to, like, did she think anything? Or was she just like, I guess I'll do this now? Like, is there a genius plan happening there, or is she just sort of stumbling along and seeing what happens?
Yeah, because the final episode, the episode, and not the reunions, where she's trying to talk to Tom about their relationship and their affair, I texted people, I was like, it's painful watching Raquel try to piece together sentences about the complexities of fucking your friend's boyfriend behind her back.
But I think some of the things that she said also really did reveal the ways that Sandoval manipulated her specifically. Like, when she has her breakdown and finally admits that they hooked up in the hot tub, the way that she phrases it is that they wanted to get their story straight on that because Tom really felt like it wasn't a good look to hook up with your friend's boyfriend while she's out of town for a funeral. The you in that situation is Raquel. He's not saying it's a bad look for us to do this, or it's a bad look for me to cheat on my girlfriend with her. He's saying it's a bad look for you. Someone who has spent her entire life so obsessed with how she is perceived, who is in the pageant world, who has completely lost a sense of identity. The message of that's a really bad look, especially when you are on a TV show, is a pretty powerful way to control someone. And it also shows, again, she's not to be a dick, but she's not a bright gal. And I don't think she's the kind of person who would hear someone say that and go, well, it's not a good look for you either, Tom. Like, there's two of us. I think she would just be like, oh, you're right. They will hate me. I guess it'll be a secret forever, because she's Bambi.
She is. The fact that after she broke up with James, they were even like, sure, Raquel, maybe you will do something for this season. And even the way, because sometimes I'm like, did Sandoval craft her entire season? Because the way that because in the original finale, Katie and Raquel have this fight in the alley that I just don't think got enough play because of Scandavol, because we knew it didn't matter. And, so, and Raquel's just like, Katie? And Katie's like, what? I just think that when you text Schwartz about the dogs and how you'll take the dogs, it's mean. And that's like Raquel trying to be like confronting.
It also sounds so much like a message that Sandoval would hand her, because Sandoval has so many gripes with Katie, and they all boil down to he is Schwartz's keeper and feels that he should get to decide how everything goes with Schwartz. And that's the reason why he and Katie could never get along, because while she was married to Schwartz, it was like a battle for who gets to boss him around, and they didn't agree. And Tom loves screaming at women, so it just turned into that. But the idea that Katie needs to get put in her place over custody of her dogs and her divorce sounds exactly like the kind of weird, random, petty shit that Tom loves to scream at her about. And yet it's coming through the puppet that is Raquel in order to have some drama and be on screen.
And she's just like, tapping her fingers together, just being like, I've been told to tell you that you can't text Shorts about us kissing. We liked kissing. And I was,
but that's where it gets interesting again, because I can look at something like that and be like, that is just Sandoval trying to get her interesting camera time, trying to manipulate things. But then you look at something like her wandering into that meeting with Lisa and being like, I slept at Schwartz's house. And it's like, there's no way he told her to share that on camera. And she dumb, but is she that dumb? I feel like what happened was that they were together way back in the Rachella days, that when he talks about how there was this like long pause and everyone's like, how is that even possible in this timeline? I think that's what he's talking about, and just not wanting to clear up the details because it's bad. I think they hooked up way back in the Rachella days, and that there was a pause because they were both in relationships, and that the deal was, we're going to break up with our partners and we'll space that out a little so it's not suspicious, and then we'll be together. And she left James, and then he kept not leaving Ariana. So I think that she was manipulative enough to bring it up on camera, but stupid enough to not see what a bad idea that was in terms of managing the story.
which honestly sounds like beauty pageant culture, where it's like, we're saying things to be mean about one another, but we all don't have like the vocabulary to make it like stick.
And then the idea of trying to maintain her image both on the show and for Tom. That it's like, oh, I was just telling her why I was late. I didn't know. And it's like, well, you did kind of know. You're going to go have a meeting with Lisa and just casually drop the fact that you were sleeping at Tom's house. We all know Lisa is constantly looking for a reason to be relevant on her own show. Come on.
And now Ken, who hasn't said anything in a decade on the show, has to be trotted out of his nap into the kitchen to be like, Katie, Tom and Ariana had a sleepover.
My favorite thing about that is that generally in reality TV, the audience, at least a media literate audience who's tuned into the reality world, can usually smell out a scripted scene pretty well. And as soon as that scene happened, normally that enrages an audience. We go like, this was scripted, I'm mad. That scene, every single person who watched it went, okay, so that was scripted, and I could eat it up with a spoon. Give me more Ken. Give him an Emmy, give him a Grammy, give him an Oscar. Ken needs to EGOT for that scene, because he just was so unconvincing that it was endearing.
Well, and I think what it is because we're only used to seeing Ken holding a small puppy. So like in our heads, we're like, Ken is puppy bringer. So we're excited whenever we see Ken in the background.
Ken, when I try and visualize him, do you remember those Animorph books where a person turns into... He is the final stage and Jiggy is the other side of the... He and Jiggy are one, and you can see the stages between them in your mind, but it's like he's carrying his own avatar. It's very
odd.
Yeah. And I know it's not actually Jiggy. Jiggy's dead. Whatever. Puffy, Pink Dog, whatever the current alopecia pet is.
They should have just named it Jiggy. I know that they wouldn't have done that because I do actually believe that they love their pets and their animals, but like no one would have known. We all would have thought that Jiggy had in fact lived for 70 years.
There is some sort of supernatural thing happening between Ken and the dogs. I would say that he is somehow feasting off of their souls, but he's clearly not eating well, if that's the case. So I don't know what's going on, but there's a spiritual bond there, and I respect it.
So I think the last 5 minutes of the last finale is because Raquel, someone finally like took her and was like, hey, he doesn't give a fuck about you because where is he? And then she was like, oh, I guess boyfriends do hang out with their girlfriends. And she went to that interview all upset about that. And the producer was like, we were just asking her about other stuff this season. And all of a sudden she's crying and just being like, I have other things to say.
I think that the beginning of the end for Tom, in terms of having Raquel toe the line, was he clearly didn't understand that she could hear the first part of the reunion from the trailer. Because when he comes in to have his little hissy fit at her, he says something about they're saying this or they're doing that. And she goes, I know, I saw. And he like does a little pause and is like, eh? And part of his manipulation, is he's orchestrating who gets what information, who hears what version of what story. And I think he said some things thinking Raquel wasn't going to see it until months later when it aired. And instead, she was seeing it in the moment. And I think that both threw him off his game and made it harder for him to balance his stories. And I think it planted the first real seeds of doubt with her because he handled the reunion so poorly. And then once she got out there, it just kind of kept spiraling. Like there was a scene where he's like turning to her being like, what the fuck? Like, why are you saying that? And like he was losing his grip on controlling her. They asked about like, do you love each other? And she's immediately like, yeah. And he's like, ugh. And then you see another little seed of doubt is planted with her. So I think that the reunion started the idea that like, this is not a good look for Cal. This is the look that is not good. And then for him immediately afterwards to be like, I'm going to go off on tour now and bang whatever absolutely deranged groupies would still be into that. And she's, I guess, going to go to an insane asylum. Like, that's a pretty harsh contrast. And I just can't wait till she busts her way out of the loony bin with a story to tell, because
with I want postcards.
Yeah. I want to hear what she's got to say. I want her to come out full Girl Interrupted. I want her to have like a shaved head and like prison tattoos. And I want her to be like, here's the full tea. Here is every bit of information that you could possibly need. Here is all of the records off my phone. Like, let's get into it and just let the internet go wild.
I would like to get into how every woman who's ever been on the show is in fact a victim of the Toms.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, here's a question. Who is the, I don't know if evilist is the right word. Who's the most damaging nightmare of a person? Jax, Tom, or Tom?
You know, I hate having to talk shit about Jax because I'm like, at least Jax has never lied to me about his intentions.
Yeah. Well, he did lie a lot, but not about how much of a dirtbag he is. It is pretty clear that he's a dirtbag. But I think we forget with distance how bad Jax was. Like, I just was rewatching the Miami Girl episode, and he literally has a line in it where he's like, the thing about girls is that they're weak and they can be broken. And you just have to convince them that you're a changed man and you're better, even though you're not. And they'll fall for it because it's what they want to hear. Like, he literally says things like that. That man bad.
That man is bad. You forget that on our original reality TV show episode, I got blinded by the fact that they were all married, they were all having kids, and they had all bought a house. And I was like, they're good grown-ups now. And you were like, they're not good grown-ups now.
I will say history's on my side with that one. They were not good grown-ups. None of them are good grown-ups. Not good. And it is truly shocking that it appears that Jax and Brittany are the couple that's standing the test of time. But I have to assume it's because at this point he has broken her down so thoroughly that he can pretty much do whatever she wants, and she just goes like, "Oh, rotten hell," and just continues. Just whispers "rotten hell" to herself and pops some pills or something. I don't know. I don't know how she's making it through life with Jax, but I guess good for them if they found something that works. Point is, we can't forget that while he has not lied about what a monster he is for the most part, he has just told us what a monster he is to such a degree that it's hard to not look at.
You didn't even put James in the mix for the biggest monster.
I know, but it's because I can't.
I know.
I know he's bad.
We know he's bad.
We know. But he's a very endearing type of bad, and I know more and more bad stuff's gonna come out. Everyone's gonna be like, Annie, he's not endearing, he's awful. But I think part of the reason it's hard to hate on James, in addition to him being funny, is that we've seen his parents. And woof.
Yeah, I would truly like if everyone would just hold off for like 2 more weeks. I just really want... James is wearing glasses now, and I'm enjoying that on his DJ journey as he's like tight roping the crowds and telling people like, I'm not allowed to say in Sir anymore that Scandavol a liar, but you can, and just feeding the crowd stuff. It's really hard to rank them because Jax is big monster, but he's loud, so you know to stay out of the forest. And then Schwartz is big bad, but he's like goofy about it. And he's like, but I'm not a bad guy. And so I hate these men who are just like silent abusers. Like they're just waiting to like abuse you when it's going to look the best for them or when they can spin it into not being abused. And then Sandoval's the fucking wolf in Little Red Riding Hood, where he's just like slinking in the woods, just being like, hey, little girl, are you feeling sad today?
Well, okay, let's put it this way. I'm going to dramatically reveal to you that I'm dating one of the cast members of Vanderpump Rules. Are you more upset if it's Jax, Schwartz, or Sandoval? Who are you the most distraught to find out that I'm in a long-term loving relationship with?
I'm the most upset that it's not Lala. I think I'm the most upset with Schwartz because of how it shaped Katie's life.
Yeah, it did really fuck her up for a long time.
And that's another way that her actual experiences in her very toxic, abusive relationship and toxic, abusive marriage has just become she's so mopey. Wouldn't it be great if she was fun? Why would she be fun?
Yeah, when you really look at this most recent season and realize that the real heart of the drama between the Toms and their significant others this whole time was that these were two women who wanted their boyfriends slash husbands to spend time with them and not cheat on them. That's the standard. That's the bar that was set. And they were like, these unreasonable beasts. I need to be able to fuck anyone, anytime, and never be home. Like, it was the same thing for both of them. It was, I never see you. You're blackout drunk and being very shady with other people.
I think Katie gets it really rough. And these last 2 seasons should have been her, like, renaissance. And instead, we have Scandavol and Ariana is going through a renaissance, and they're both making money, so I'm happy.
I'm going to say something possibly controversial, because I know there's a lot of Katie love right now, and don't get me wrong, I love Katie, I support Katie. However, I think that the universe gave her a gift with Scandavol, in that the world was not ready to rally behind Katie. It wasn't. A lot of ill will was built up over the weird bullshit with her and Schwartz. A lot of people bought into his story of she's the villain, he's the poor husband who's trying to do right. I think that it was gonna, we saw in the beginning of the season, the friend group was siding a lot more with him than with her. And while I like Katie and I'm proud of this renaissance that she's experiencing, she doesn't have the necessary likability. There was a scene in the reunion where Andy says something to her about, like, do you still think you want to have kids? And she said, I don't have a huge drive for that. Instead, I think I'm going to be like the fabulous aunt who travels the world and dates a new young man every week, which, like, I'm a lady who loves not having babies. I'm into it. I love that. Love that message. But the way she delivered it felt like a child actor delivering their lines. It didn't feel like this is a dream this woman has. It felt like she was like, this is the thing that I'll say to sound cool. And it didn't. Versus Ariana comes across pretty authentically when she says things. Even things that I'm sure she put a little thought and planning into read really well. And I don't know if it's just that she's one of the smarter members of the cast, or if she is more genuine with her presentation and things, but I feel like the exact same line from Ariana would have come across much more likable. And yet when Katie said it, I found myself cringing because I was like, bitch, you're lying. You're not excited about that. You're being corny. I would love if you do that and you like that. That's great. But I think that the situation with Scandavol let her be part of this girl power, get out of the toxic relationship, build something new. It let her be part of that, which is really wonderful. But I don't think she could have done it on her own.
No. And I don't think Katie was actually made for reality TV. I think she was a girl waitressing at a restaurant who happened to be friends with people who were like made for reality television.
The point at which I knew that Katie was not meant for reality TV was when they had a season where an entire storyline was Katie hasn't been mean this whole time. She fell through a skylight a long time ago and got brain damage that made her mean. So now you have to like her because she's not actually mean. And I was like, okay. Someone did not like all the negative feedback they got from their earlier seasons and is now trying to find a reason why it's not their fault. And the true reason why it wasn't her fault was because Schwartz is a piece of shit. But But that whole thing, I was like, you should not be on reality TV. If you're this upset about a negative edit that you're like doing this whole weird storyline, you're not cut out for it. I mean, look at Lala. Lala has a pretty legitimate excuse for her bad behavior earlier because she was a stone cold alcoholic and she's sober now and she's fixed it. And she will sometimes say things like, I was a different person at that point. I was making bad decisions. She'll acknowledge it, but she doesn't spend a lot of time being like, it's okay that I was bad. It's great that I was bad. Here's all the reasons. It just, she's very like acknowledging and moving on versus Katie was fully like, let me come up with a justification for why I drink a lot of tequila and scream at my husband. That's just your vibe right now, babe. That's it.
It's just your vibe right now, babe. It's okay. It's okay.
If there's any place to do it, it's on Vanderpump Rules, but then people will hate you and you gotta just be cool with that.
One of the other, like, I can't decide if this is just misogyny or people processing, is that a lot of women on Vanderpump Rules on camera said, you'd expect it from Tom. How dare she do it to us? And we hear that a lot in our own experiences. Like, I'd never expect one of my girlfriends to do this. My man is an asshole, and I know that. And he just can't help it because genetics.
I don't know how to respond to that other than just like a guttural growl. Because you're right, that is a thing that you hear all the time. And I think it is just the natural progression from the boys will be boys thing, right? That we hear all the time that men can't help themselves, that it's the same reason why they blame victims of assault based on what they're wearing or what they said. And there's just this sense that like men don't have control over their animal instincts, which it's funny that they then argue that men should be the only ones who get control and can make big decisions because pick one. Are they uncontrollable beasts or are they logical leaders? Because it feels like it shouldn't be both. And that is infuriating. That said, I do kind of understand in the case of Tom what people meant by that, because on the show, Raquel's image was so curated to be this like innocent, sweet person. But if you believe anything you see on Vanderpump Rules at face value, that's on you, I guess.
Thank God it was Lala who was on Watch What Happens Live directly after the third reunion and the Raquel reveal, because I think Lala's the only one who actually has owned her shit and reflected enough to be like, oh.
She also far and away has the fastest reaction time for things. Out of the cast, she can like pretty quickly process and come up with like a pretty good take on things versus like I was panicked for her. I've been listening to her podcast lately and she on an episode was talking about how she didn't get to see that final 5 minutes until we all did. And then 30 seconds later, she was live on air and needed to say something about it. And so in the podcast leading up to it, she was like, I don't know what this big reveal is, but I'm like pretty stressed because whatever it is, I need to respond in a way that's not going to get me canceled 2 seconds later. And she's a brave one for that. I would not have been able to handle that. That's terrifying. But Lala delivers.
Yeah, because Katie ran around with Stassi and Kristen, the three of them, the three witches of WeHo, are not known for forgiveness.
And they're not known for great takes. Like, part of the problem with Stassi is that she's just, like, very reactionary and has always lived in, like, pretty girl privilege and will just say whatever comes to her mind. And often that thing is, like, pretty politically incorrect or insane. And don't get me wrong, Lala has said plenty of things wrong, but especially since she's gotten sober, she's much more likely to come at things from, like, I don't know, a place of more understanding of other perspectives. She's put in work. That is a person that we have seen put in work on herself and on understanding things, and she still gets a lot wrong, but I'm a big fan of Lala.
I'm a big fan of Lala, and Ariana is too scorned, so I would understand if Ariana watched that last 5 minutes and also realized that manipulative abuse was happening there, but she's also grappling with her manipulative abuse that happened to her, and she's like, how do I forgive? Like, we're not sisters in arms.
Here's what I really need to know, and I don't know that I'll ever get this answer, but I hope that I do. I need to know at what point Ariana knew that the Miami Girl thing was true. Because we know at the when that comes out, she's very like, yeah, Miami girl, got it. Like, it's clearly not fresh news that happened. And having just rewatched the episode, I'm not trying to blame Ariana because she was young and she was digmatized and she was being manipulated clearly. But in that episode, when they bring Miami girl and they're all dealing with it in the moment, Tom and Ariana leave for a while, and when they come back, if he had admitted it to her at that point, her reaction was pretty not cute. Because when Miami girl's there, she's like basically making fun of her and being like, you're crazy and I believe my boyfriend and you didn't do anything. And if Tom said to her, I did have sex with this woman, but we need to deal with it in private and I don't want to do this on camera, there was a way that she could have come back and just deadpanned it. And instead, she was being pretty Scandavol-y at that woman, which I understand if Tom didn't fully admit and she found out later. But I kind of want to know, not because I want to beat up on her if she made the wrong choice. I've been an asshole plenty of times, and maybe she was being an asshole. But I feel like it'll better help me understand the dynamic of early days Tom and Ariana. I want to better understand what exactly he said to her around those events and how that rolled out. Not my business, but I want to know it anyway.
But it is my business.
It is, in a way, my business.
What if we wrote to Raquel in the facility and she sent us a postcard?
Honestly, at this point, I would give anything to be friends with Raquel. I mean, I term friends pretty loosely, but I gotta get into that noggin. I have questions I need answered. I really need to understand.
So you and I are pretty,
We are pretty.
We are pretty, but we're also pretty well lived in the reality TV world, but also, unfortunately, like the manipulative abuse world. How do you think that, like, women who have just had it all, who have just had wonderful boyfriends and good dads and all of it, how do you think they're watching this? When they look at Raquel, do you think that they're just going to internally blame her because of internalized misogyny and just be like, that lady's a bitch? Or, like, do you think they'll even cock their heads and be like, something has to be up?
Okay, well, first of all, I think your thesis that there are very many women out there who both have had good dads and only good boyfriends a little rocky, that one. I think that most, if not all, women have had a brush with a Sandoval or two in some way. Maybe not to that extreme.
These imaginary women, these binders of women, if you will.
And I think that there are probably, regardless of people's past experiences, I think there are probably going to be a lot of people who are more angry at Raquel because socially we like being angry at women. We just do. It's a cool, cute cultural thing that we all just love hating women and blaming women, especially for men's, air quotes, inability to control themselves. You know, we can go back to Helen of Troy or whoever you want to pick historically. There is constantly the need to blame women for men's bad actions. Now, granted, Raquel had some pretty bad actions herself in this case, but when we look at it, if we take them at their really shitty word that this didn't start when she was with James, then at the time that they were hooking up, she was not being a good friend to Ariana, but she was not betraying a romantic relationship. She had not promised to be exclusively romantic with one person. He had. And that doesn't forgive her any of it, but it does mean that if we're going to be real mad at someone, he is the correct person for us to be real mad at. I think that there will be people who are angrier at her just because it's easy to be angry at her and because I was going to say she can't really defend herself, but honestly, I think in the reunion, she came off a lot better than him. Not just because she eventually fessed up about some things, but I think even before that, Tom is incapable of just saying, I fucked up, I'm sorry. Over and over again, he's given the opportunity to say, I fucked up, I'm sorry, which is the only way you could disarm this. If he had come out in the beginning of the reunion and just anything that they said, if he had gone, you're right, I suck, I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but I'm sorry, and I'm just going to keep being here and being sorry. That's what I'm going to do. It would have taken all the wind out of their sails. But he couldn't do that. He had to go, well, Lala did this, and James did that, and Ariana wore a t-shirt, and it's not my fault. Versus when Raquel came out, there were a couple of moments where she kind of put up a fight like that, but for the most part, she took it like a champ. She sat out there and let a bunch of people scream at her about how much she sucked, and she said things like, I am disgusted with myself. I can't believe I did that. That was gross. I am bad. And all of his fake crying and all of his bullshit did not read well. I think that she did that a lot better. So I don't think it is really accurate to say that she can't defend herself. I think that she's actually potentially navigating this kind of well. She did the number one thing that celebrities should do and struggle to do in the face of scandal, which is go away. She got left the public eye. Hopefully she's doing some solid therapy, and we won't really know how well she's navigating it till she rolls back into the public eye again. But the two primary steps of take accountability and then fuck off, she has aced both of them, and he has not with either.
These are just fun questions, and then we'll do the little manifestations and takeaways, and then maybe we'll talk about Lala and James for the Patreon, because we didn't get to talk about them enough. But anyways, what was your favorite line of the reunions?
Was probably Lisa was talking about how Raquel's behavior was so weird, and she was like, it's almost as if you were like participating in some sort of pageant for his affection. And James said some nasty comment where he was like, oh no, Lisa, she won't win that. She doesn't win pageants. And it was I loved it because we've so clearly seen that the only thing Raquel cares about, the only time she's shed tears on camera, the only time she cares is when it has to do with pageants. I just love that he found a way to get a pageant slam in there. That's probably my favorite.
Mine was go fuck yourself with a cheese grater. I would wear that on a t-shirt. I want it on a tumbler, actually, so I can just like cheers people with it.
I appreciate the bitingness of the comment. That's not my favorite because it makes my brain viscerally think about the physical sensation of a cheese grater, and then I don't like that.
I pick my lines based on the delivery, and she just like said it like she had said it every day. And I'm like, good for you, Ariana. I also loved, I know you like Harry Potter.
That was a A+ delivery.
A+. My favorite line of the entire series is, I am the devil, and don't you forget it.
Yeah, Stassi, much like Jax, is bad, but I do love to watch. I love to watch how bad.
I do. What are people supposed to take away and learn from Scandavol besides don't cheat on your partners?
Honestly, the big Scandavol for me was a little triggering. I might have talked about this on an early episode, I'm not sure, but I had a relationship that was very Ariana Sandoval-esque, down to the let me put on some sparkle pants and be embarrassing, and me being like, that's endearing and not embarrassing. It was embarrassing. And similarly, turned out a whole bunch of cheating was happening. I didn't know about it. I was blindsided. It involved people in my life. It was very yucky. It was really similar to this situation. And the thing that I couldn't quite move past for a while, that Ariana has talked about too, is that in attempting to be a good partner, she was intentionally turning a blind eye to things. There would be things that looked suspicious, and she would be like, I'm choosing to believe you because that's what you're supposed to do with your person. And I had the same thing happen where, a narcissist was being manipulative, and I would see things that were 99% proof of something bad. And I would go, but it's my job as a good partner to trust you that there's that 1% chance that this isn't shady, and I have to listen to you if you're promising me that's the case. And I guess the thing that I took away from both that relationship nightmare, and then again, as a reminder from Scandavol, is that it is important to trust the person that you're with. And there are going to be times that you have to take someone's word over what makes sense to your brain. But at the end of the day, your gut knows what's up. It does. And if you get to a place where you're feeling the need to track someone's location and look at their text message history and check their email and do those things, stop doing it and just break up with them. Just break up with them. And maybe you're wrong, but if you're in a relationship with someone that you really in your gut feel like is doing something shady, you don't want to be in that relationship. Even if you're wrong, you don't want to be in that relationship because it's not the right fit. And I think Ariana ignored the signs because she was trying to be good girlfriend. And I respect that from her, and I understand that, but sometimes you gotta listen to your gut, would be the takeaway, I would say.
I'm going to co-sign on that, and then I'm going to remind everyone to not put irresponsible men on your paperwork, because now Ariana is living in a house that she probably cannot afford to get out of, because it's very clear that Sandoval is just taking out loans on their house to fund any bar that he has thought would be cool, possibly his like band, all of the 12 people that are in his band, plus the roadies and the tours and all of it.
I can only pray that Ariana has taken the big old pile of money she's gotten from all of this and has gone directly to the world's greatest lawyer and been like, I will give you all of this if you make sure that there is not a single financial tether left between me and that idiot. I hope, Ariana, if you're listening, I know you are. If you're tuning in to All the Men I've Tolerated Before,
Ariana,
listen to me. Go get yourself a bulldog of a lawyer and get the fuck away from him. Yeah. But that is, do not tie yourself financially to ding-dongs.
Never. Don't even let them look at your bank account, silly. That's none of their business. What are you hoping for the... Oh, I don't know if you know this, and I didn't want to text you this in case it would be like an authentic moment. They did announce today that we're getting a season 11.
I had not heard that. I'm not surprised because capitalism.
Yes.
I am a little concerned. I'm going to withhold judgment about it. But my feeling is that I have loved Vanderpump Rules since day one. I've loved it since I was watching Beverly Hills, and then suddenly I followed Sheena into the kitchen and something new was happening. I have loved it from the jump. And as this season was wrapping, I could not stop thinking, as much as I don't want this thing that I love to go away, it will not get better than this.
Mm-hmm.
This is, in the world of reality TV, I don't think anything has been as satisfying to watch unfold as Scandavol. Not the Kardashians, not Real World. This was something magical, which sounds insane because a horrible thing happened. But the way that it came out, and then we were watching the build up to seeing the thing that we know would happen and the sleuthing that was going on, it was so satisfying in so many ways. And if the show carries on and only follows the people who are, air quotes, good people on the show, that's going to be pretty snoozy by comparison. And if the show continues to follow the train wreck of Scandavol, like, where does that possibly go from this point? So I remain faithful in our Lord and Savior Andy Cohen. But if I were in charge over at Bravo, which Bravo call me, I should be, Vanderpump would not be getting an 11th season.
Okay, well, because they are, what's your one wish for the season? That will be our manifestations today.
My one wish for the season is that it has a format change to be more like Real Housewives, where the focus is almost entirely on the women of the show, and the men are complimentary when they're relevant to a storyline. You'll see who they're dating or that kind of thing, but the show should be about the women at this point, and I do include Raquel in that. Because again, I gotta get to the bottom of what's going on with her. I think she's AI. I need to know what's happening.
Honestly, I was going to say that for my manifestation, I hope that Raquel does get some redemption. I think Lala taking that pause to be like, honestly, Andy, I'm going to have to sit on that. And whether or not I feel icky about things that I called her not 3 days ago. And just like taking a beat with it. And I think Lala has been trying, and she even tried it with Raquel when she went, you, my love, are not a mistress, but you will be the one who goes down for this. Because Lala is currently battling that and has battled it. So I think Lala is my champion and my current Lord and Savior, and she has become Chris Pratt is the face of our enemy here on To All the Men I've Tolerated Before. Whenever I think of male privilege and misogyny, it's his head. And then when I think about what does it take to deprogram from misogyny? I think Lala.
I love Lala, and I accept that she is your totem. I think that Lala, as much as she has put in some really significant work, I think she sometimes does an oopsie and falls in the misogyny still. We all do. Not judging her. We all have an oopsie misogyny sometimes. But I do think that there's a real opportunity on the show for people to help Raquel redeem herself without just wiping away what happened. I think there's such a history with all the women on the show of making bad choices, being with bad people, falling down rabbit holes of darkness, that if any group of women can help pull her back out of the shit, it should be this group. And I think that, like I said, she's taken all the right steps so far. I think that there is a possibility that it happens. But God, she's got to stay away from Scandavol.
She's gotta. And unfortunately, I think Scandavol, for his little schemes and his, it's time to get my dick wet and I want to feel exciting, he picked the wrong woman because he picked a woman that was actually going to fall in love with him. And he could have literally have picked anyone else.
But I think what he needed was I think he needed that infatuation. It's not what he actually wanted, because he doesn't want to be with Raquel now. He doesn't want to slide into another serious long-term relationship. But I think for him, I think he's a serial cheater who does have random hookups all the time. But the reason Raquel was such a downfall for him is that he can't get enough of someone fawning over him.
You're right. Annie, first off, thank you for being back.
Of course, anytime. I could truly talk about this forever and ever in all eternity.
And honestly, is my exhaustion because I over-socialized this week, or is it because I knew that Vanderpump and the Ultimatum Queer Love and the Eras Tour were all over for me, and now I have to just hibernate until the Barbie movie?
You done an episode on Ultimatum Queer Love yet?
I have not. Are you signing?
Well, it depends. Do you want to talk for an hour about how in love with Mal I am? Because
yes.
That's all I want to talk about. That's the main thing that I want to talk about, is how incredibly attractive Mal is. Like, damn.
No, I would love to talk about the Ultimatum Queer Love and compare it to Straight Love on the original Ultimatum, and just all of it. The pronouns, the relationship dichotomy, all of it. Just
fundamental premise of the show.
Yes, the fundamental. The host.
I would like to just formally be your reality TV correspondent, and just when there's some reality TV you want to talk about, consider me there, because I've probably already watched it and I'm dying to talk about it. My Bravo group chat, shout out to the Bravo babes. I am constantly trying to make them talk about Selling Sunset, and it's very clear that I love it a lot more than any of them. And I'm always like, did anyone see this? Have you heard about that? And it's just like, crickets. And I'm like, I know it's not Bravo, but the houses are pretty and the clothes are crazy.
I have told you that this summer I will watch as much Selling Sunset as I can handle.
I need you to binge all of it and then talk to me about it, because I need to discuss these tiny bald twins who just love giant, angry, hot women. It's a fascinating dynamic. I don't know why more people aren't into it.
Well, plug some of your work.
Fine. I am Annie Makes Art on TikTok, although I've not been super active lately because social media is like draining my soul. But I'll try and get back on there. I still post periodically. Same thing with Instagram. I'm AKSIEG on Instagram, and post kind of sometimes, sort of, maybe. And I'm a painter. I paint mostly bodacious babes without clothes on. So if you're a bodacious babe who would like to be painted, hit me up. Or if you just like covering your walls with nudie fun times, also hit me up. Is that a plug? Did I do it? AnnieSieg.com if you want to look at my arts.
If you want to look at Annie's art and what it might look like in a bedroom, every Tuesday when we're covering One Tree Hill on Still Comfy with Jules, I'm sitting in front of what I have deemed my Annie wall, and now I feel like I can't add to it because I'm like, That wall is for Annie.
I'll just keep sending you more and more art, and it'll just be a weird pile of butts behind you. I mostly paint butts.
My favorite tagline is, if it's butts, it's Annie. And everyone, in order to see that, you'd have to follow Men I've Tolerated Pod on Instagram. There's a link tree in our bio. Join the Patreon because, I mean, I talked more about the Eras Tour, and I haven't even talked to Annie about how Lisa Vanderpump hates women.
Oh my God, how did we not talk about Lisa and how... All right. Episodes.
So, just remember out there, tolerators, you don't have to smile through anything you're tolerating, including a man who will be like, freeze your eggs in case you want my kids, and then never fertilize them. Smiles are for joy.